Let's welcome to the show from House Appropriations. He's Congressman Mike Garcia. Sir, it's great to have you back on. When will the Democrats stop with the answer to everything, government spending? We have a new DOJ report. Thieves stole $8 billion of tax money from government pandemic programs to buy things like cars, jewelry, homes, and more. When is this going to end? People are sick of it.
Yeah, I don't think this party of the Democrats will actually ever stop defaulting to the number one answer being more money. Let's throw more money at it. What we're seeing is roughly an estimated $8 billion. I think the actual numbers will probably be higher. Of the $6 trillion that we've allocated for COVID relief are now being deemed to be used fraudulently. This represents about 1/10 of 1%, and this is a significant number. And like any major government program, when you spend this much money with as little oversight as we have right now, and it's shotgun across so many entities and equities across the country, we're going to see massive fraud. And we absolutely have to hold these folks accountable. We need to run them to ground, and we have to have a zero tolerance mentality. This is the fraud side of it. What I'm also interested in is the waste and abuse side of this, and where the governments at the state and local levels didn't necessarily track their money. They didn't necessarily report or get the product that they promised the federal government that they would provide with this money, and this is what we've got to be looking out for.
Well, the DOJ has charged more than 1,000 defendants, but that's about 1/8 of what was stolen, more than $1 billion. 1,800 individuals and entities are being investigated, $6 billion in loans there. So there's that, right? So money was thrown out the door. Then you have the mask mandates, right? Now, mask mandates on airplanes are going away April 18th. United Airlines letting the unvaccinated workers come back to work, but the White House is still fighting in court for Biden's vaccine mandate. We had a problem with the CDC. The GAO gave a negative read to the HHS saying this is a system at risk. CDC uses 1925 era pandemic modeling systems. Also, effectively, the CDC has fallen down on the job. New York Times found it was burying information about hospitalizations, COVID cases, and death rates. In effect, making the pandemic worse than it was, seeming worse than it was. Your response to that?
This CDC, a bloated organization that we've given something like $28 billion to over the last 2 years. Now the White House wants to double their annual budget from $11 billion to $22 billion. Look, I want to know, how much do we have to pay for them to be right? How much do we have to pay for them to be completely transparent and actually give us guidance that's not only following the science and correct, but is not confusing? And that's what they've continued to do under both administrations. By the way, the CDC was failing. If you took the $22 billion that we allocate to the CDC on an annual basis and shotgun that across the 300 cities that have at least 100,000 people in them across the country, that would allow those individual cities to constitute public health directors at the lowest levels, giving them something close to $100 million a year to provide their own public health directors and come up with their own public health policies during things like pandemics.
So it's better,
this is a massive waste of money.
Better use for the money. It's better use for the money, what you're saying, right? Because Gallup...
Like anything, the bigger it is, the less effective it is, and we need to download this money. They've got about 11,000 employees in the CDC, which is equivalent to roughly $2 million per full-time equivalent head there. That's insane. These are bloated, massive government programs that are only getting bigger and getting less effective.
Gallup, only 32% said they believe the CDC was giving them good information. A Pew poll, 60% found CDC confusing. By the way, where's Dr. Fauci been?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, how much have we paid him over the course of the last couple decades, right? Again, this is a bureaucrat. He's become a politician making a lot of money on taxpayer backs. And when you see $6 gas and when you see $10 bacon, this is what you're paying for. You're paying for Fauci. You're paying for this bloated government program, the CDC, these ineffectual government bureaucracies that are only getting worse over time and not better. I don't know where Fauci is, but clearly he's been wrong on many fronts. And look, we just want them to be transparent. Show us all the data as it relates to the mandates and the effectiveness of the mandates. Show us the data and the effectivity of the vaccines, and do your jobs. But you don't need $22 billion a year to do that.
Got it. Congressman Garcia, pleasure to have you on. Thanks for spending time with us.
Thanks, Liz. Take care.
Okay, this story.